All right, Minnie. Ready to start docking sequence?
Okay. Engaging retro thrusters now. Lunar Transfer Station Tacoma. Commercial Cargo Transit Facility. Crew evacuated.
Last night, I finished Tacoma, the new game by Fullbright, the same people who made Gone Home. And if you know me at all, you'll know that Gone Home is one of my favorite games of all time. And I liked it. I had a good time with Tacoma. I think it's a great step forward from what they were doing with Gone Home and a jump in their ability to tell stories through the environment, pretty much exclusively, especially here in Tacoma. So the setup for Tacoma is that you play as a woman who is investigating the space station Tacoma. It's an orbital facility. I'm not entirely sure what they do. I don't really remember if it was explained at all. I might have to go back and do that. And that's not a chore at all. I actually really anticipate replaying Tacoma at some point again. But you play as this woman who was sent to investigate the space station, and the crew has left. They are gone. They're not there anymore. And so you have to go figure out what happened to them. And the way you do this is you access the ship's, it's not a ship, it's like a space station. You access the station's main AI, which records AR, almost security footage of people on the ship. So what that means is you walk into a room and you activate your AR device or whatever by doing weird hand motions, and then colored representations of the crew members will appear. So there's six crew members. I think there's 6 crew members on the Tacoma. Yes, it's definitely 6. So you watch these colored, low poly representations of the crew members who each is assigned their own color based on their job on the station, and their only way to differentiate them really aside from the color is they're given very distinct silhouettes, body shapes, and their voices, obviously. And the voice acting in this game is phenomenal. It's impeccable. It's really, really great. They somehow make you empathize and feel for, and almost like you become emotionally invested in these low poly, pink, green, blue, like colored masses that move around the ship and talk to each other and have relationships with people on the station as well as off the station. And the way you glean these off-station relationships is during the recordings, people will open these AR desktops. Everyone has an AR desktop. Even you have an AR desktop in the game where you can access email, messenger, web browsers. Like it's literally like today's, like cell phones and stuff, except it opens in this AR Iron Man-esque kind of touchscreen interface in front of you. And so you can pause the security footage and you can access their computer, and you can look at emails they've sent to loved ones and messages they've sent to other people on the crew, things they've bought. What are they looking at in that moment in time? What is their mental state? What is their relationship with their friends and family? Because they left for however long it was they plan on staying on the space station Tacoma. I don't really want to go too much further into the story because the game is only 3 hours long, and I don't think that's a negative at all. Gone Home I don't even think was that long at all. I think Gone Home at most was maybe 2.5, 15 hours. That's totally fine to me. I'm not someone who judges value of a game based on how long it takes me to beat it. I judge it based on the content and the emotional value or the gameplay value I got out of it. Now, as far as the gameplay is concerned in Tacoma, I think it's almost exactly the same as Gone Home in the sense that you're walking around, picking up objects, looking at things, except there's a little more strategy, I almost want to say, to the way that you are interacting with the world and the way that you're exploring it. Because when you're looking at these AR security footage things, I don't really know what to call them. Well, when you're looking at them, sometimes you'll be looking at a piece of footage that takes place in multiple rooms on a floor of the station. And you'll be watching two people have a conversation, and then another two people walk up and join that conversation. Well, what were those other two people talking about in the other room? So you can rewind and go look at that, and it'll give you another angle to the conversation. Or maybe something happens on the ship, an important event, and it is so important and large that every member of the crew would react to it, you know? So you would see the reaction of the people in this room, and then you go over to another room and you see how they react to it. And it gives you different angles on certain situations. Like, maybe someone will be in distress and maybe someone else knows how to fix it, but they can't or don't want to, for example. And you get these two differing... You get to see how some people act around other people and with other members of the crew members. It's really, really cool. I can't go into specifics because I don't really want to spoil things here. I think you should go play it and you'll totally get what I mean. But the one example I'll give you, I guess, is this is one of the very first rooms you enter in the game. They're throwing a party, and some people are up above on this like platform talking about like the food or whatever, like they're just talking about the party. And then there's another girl down below the platform. She's in the same room though. It's like a loft style room. And they're up here talking, and they call her. They go, "Oh, hey, come up. The dinner's ready," or whatever, you know. And if you go down there and you listen to what she was talking about, eventually they will call her and she will walk up and join the conversation, you know. And there's other things that happen in that one room which would require that sort of rewinding and switching around in order to get different angles and the full story, essentially. Another really cool thing that comes about with the following people, essentially, then they don't know they're being followed. I mean, they know they're being AR recorded, but they don't know that they're being watched by you in the future, I guess, you know. So let's say they go through a door, and that door has a keypad on it, and you don't know the code. Some doors you can find the code for, or you could just watch them enter the code, like where their fingers go, you know, and you can get into that room, and then sometimes that's required to see the rest of a conversation because two people will go into a door that has a lock on it. So you need to find a way into the door and see out the rest of the conversation. It's this sort of almost environmental puzzle solving kind of thing where you have to follow people around, figure out where they go, figure out where they went, and that's the only way you can get the full story of what's happening. You know, I think it's a really neat development on the audio log and exploring that you got in Gone Home. I think the biggest knock against the game I can give in terms of the way that the events are presented to you and the way that the station is set up. This is all narratively, like, in context, this totally makes sense as to why this happens. But from a gameplay perspective, I don't know if it necessarily helped the game. And I mean, it's definitely, in my opinion, somewhat of a step backwards from Gone Home in this regard, this regard, not the whole game. So the space station is set up with floors. There's like personnel, engineering, biomedical, and when you are playing, you go from floor to floor to floor. Like the station is like a 2001: A Space Odyssey type thing that spins, and in the center there's a pillar, and you move down the pillar linearly. And when you get to a room, it's super helpful. Like in Gone Home, you could miss a lot of the tapes and stuff, and you wouldn't know where to find them at. But when you get to a floor, you put this device on the wall, and it gives you a progress meter telling you how much of the conversations you've seen, like 50%, 100%, you know. And so it gives you a real sense of like, okay, I'm not done on this floor yet. I'm going to hang around and explore. And that happened to me a few times where I came out and I was like, oh, I think I'm done here, but it said I was at like 75% or whatever. So I found a room that I totally spaced that would be there based on the layout of the ship. And I found that last thing that was super helpful. But when you complete it, you go from section to section to section. In Gone Home, even though it was essentially linear. It felt as if you could sequence break, I'm pretty sure, in Gone Home. I'm almost positive you could go find the key or whatever to like get to the thing. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you could finish Gone Home extremely quickly. In fact, I think there was a trophy on the PS4 version for finishing it in like 4 minutes or whatever. In Tacoma, that's not possible. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with linearness in games. I'm just saying that in comparison to Gone Home, which the comparison is obviously there because Gone Home is arguably the first version of the walking simulator, which I think is a super derogatory term for a really great genre of games. It's the first one of those in the modern sense, the way we think about it, like Firewatch, Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, Edith Finch, all that sort of stuff. I think that the comparisons to Gone Home will be made because of that, and also because this is Fulbright making this game also. And I think that the way you explore the house in Gone Home, even though it wasn't super linear and you could sequence break it, I think it felt a little more natural and a little more cohesive. I don't want to say cohesive, but I do think that it felt a little more natural to explore the house in Gone Home than it did feel to move through the sections of the space station in Tacoma. The more I think back on the game, I originally planned to do this video last night, almost immediately after I finished it, but that didn't work out. I was like too tired and it was hot as fuck under these lights. I don't even have the lights on right now because it's too hot. In fact, it's like 90. I'm rambling. Anyways, the more I talk about Tacoma, I fall in love a little bit more with it each second I think about it. The characters, again, are like super, super endearing. And it makes sense that they could make, that Fulbright could make you fall in love with these colored, almost amorphous, like human-like figures, when in Gone Home they made you fall in love with a character you never even saw. And it was possible to get through that game without even seeing a picture of that character, you know? But in this game, everyone is accompanied by a picture next to them when you mouse over them because of the way that AR thinks. That's totally not important, but I think the characters are super well acted, super well written. I think that the game ends on a super satisfying note. There is one plot thread that the game ends on that you can find hints to in the game. In fact, I only found one hint to the way that the game might end in the ship, in the station. And when I found it, it was an item, and when I found it, I inspected it, I looked around it, I read what was on it, and I was like, what is this? What does this have to do? I think, like, at the time, I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool sci-fi idea, element, you know, but what does this have to do with the story? Why is this in this person's room, first of all? And I was like, what is this? What does this have to do with anything? And when the end of the game came to pass, the last minute or 40 seconds or so, it all tied up to that one little item. And I think if you didn't find that item previously, you would be like, what? Where did this come from? What is this? And even still, like, I found the one item, so I understood it. There might be more clues and more of those items on board the ship, but I didn't find them. I think that they could have set that up a little better. I don't know. I found it to be extremely awesome. I thought it was really, really cool. I was like smiling and laughing and like clapping like a little goober at my computer desk when it happened. I was like, oh, that's a really neat, you know, thing to end the game on. I really like that. Yeah, I think that the game sets itself up well. I think that it runs the course. It doesn't overstay its welcome. And it ends on a super satisfying note. I think the only other, like, small thing I could dink it for, which it becomes cleared up immediately, not immediately, maybe like 20 or so minutes into the game, the rewinding and like finding people and like searching around and stuff like that, it can feel super overwhelming at first. More overwhelming than when you like play Gone Home and you look at the list and you're like, oh my god, there's all these tapes I have to find. I think when you first play Tacoma, when you first start it up and you go to the very first room with multiple people in it and you have to like search around and stuff like that, I think it's super daunting. You're like, oh man, I don't want to miss anything, but the game provides some really nice incentives to ensure that you see everything. Like when people open their AR desktops, it puts a little notification on the progress bar, essentially, of the video, saying, hey, someone opened their AR desktop at some point, somewhere in this recording. You need to go find it. And that'll help you, lead your way to the to other people who are looking at other things and stuff like that. And I think after the first 20 or 30 minutes or so of the game, that sort of overwhelmed feeling will go away, and it's not there for very long. Now, the final question I think that needs to be asked and answered is if Tacoma stacks up against Gone Home. And I think that's too big of an ask, especially right now with how fresh the game is. Again, Gone Home is one of my favorite games of all time, so I'm probably extremely biased. So I don't really want to make that comparison, especially right now. The game is still fresh. I think everyone should go play it. And if you haven't played Gone Home, go play Gone Home first, then play Tacoma. I think that they totally run together pretty well, and if you play them in order of release, you can see the evolution of this team's development and stuff like that. Again, I think Fullbright has done it again. I think they totally hit it out of the park with this. I think all of my misgivings about any part of the plot or how some of the gameplay works or how linear it is, I think they can totally be overlooked for a game that's super well written and extremely well voice acted. And just really obviously something they cared about through and through to the end. And they end it on a note that totally works for the game. I love it. So I think you should go play Tacoma. I think everyone should go play Tacoma. Don't miss it. It's really, really, really great. That's kind of all I have to say about it at this moment in time. If I think of anything else, I'll add a little addendum to this video. But I think it's too early to tell where exactly Tacoma will sit in the pantheon of walking simulators, which is a bad term. Again, I'll say that for the rest of my life. Where it will sit, I think it's too early to tell. But I do think Fullbright has made something, again, really, really great and really, really special here. So, Thank you for watching.
Minnie, I'm headed in. Talk to you when I'm back. Don't let anybody scan the ship while I'm gone.
Okay.
Okay.